The black void of space stretched endlessly, dotted with stars that gleamed like distant jewels. Among them the planet Norel Prime hung, a small blue and green world seemingly insignificant in the grand galactic map. Yet to the Krenar, this world had become a stage for what they expected to be an easy victory. Admiral Vorthak of the Krenar fleet floated in the command chamber of his flagship, the Oblivion Spear. His long, segmented limbs flexed as he studied the glowing holographic displays of approaching human vessels. The Krenar had fought countless wars, crushed countless civilizations, and believed themselves masters of combat. These humans, primitive in their technology compared to the fleet before him, were hardly worth his attention. "They come slowly," Vorthak hissed, the sound echoing strangely in the low-pressure chamber. "Their ships are small, weak. Their formations are chaotic. They will fall quickly as all others have." His officers clicked and chirped, their voices vibrating through the chamber. "Shall we strike first, Admiral?" one asked. "Crush their fleet and make this world ours?" Vorthak's multi-jointed eyes narrowed. "Patience. Let us observe. Let them think they have a chance. Humiliate them before we end them." Meanwhile, on the human side, Captain Jonathan Reynolds stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute. Unlike the Krenar, humans did not possess alien physiology or instinctive combat adaptations. What they had, however, was something far more unpredictable: ingenuity. "Approaching orbit of Norel Prime," Lieutenant Silva reported. "Sensors picking up alien vessels, large, heavily armed. They're aware of us." Reynolds did not frown. He had expected this. Humans had always fought against odds far greater than themselves. "Good," he said simply. "Let them watch. Let them underestimate us. Keep scanners active. I want to know everything they do." Below the Resolute, small human landing craft slipped silently into the atmosphere of Norel Prime. The forests, mountains, and rivers stretched in vast expanses below. To an alien eye, the humans appeared exposed, weak, unprotected. Yet these same humans moved with careful precision, setting up reconnaissance points and defensive positions in ways the Krenar could not anticipate. Back in the Oblivion Spear, the Krenar watched the humans' movements with increasing curiosity. "They scatter like prey," Vorthak hissed. "They are disorganized." His lieutenant, a smaller Krenar named Dravik, tilted his head. "Yes, Admiral. Yet they survive. Our scouts report no losses so far, even against basic bombardment. How do they survive with so little defense?" Vorthak clicked his mandibles. "Humans, they are strange. Let us wait." The first skirmish came suddenly. Human squads, moving with apparent randomness, struck at the Krenar scouts. Their weapons were small, almost laughable in size compared to the alien armaments. Yet each shot was precise, aimed at weak points in the armor that Krenar engineers had never considered vulnerable. Within moments, a scout ship erupted in brilliant green flames, disintegrating in a silent explosion. On the Krenar bridge, chaos erupted. "Impossible!" shouted Dravik. "Their weapons, these primitive guns, should not penetrate our armor." Vorthak's eyes glimmered, not with fear but with intrigue. "So they can strike true? Very well. Increase observation. Do not commit the main fleet yet. I want to see the mind of these humans." On the planet, Captain Reynolds surveyed the battlefield from a high ridge. Below, human squads moved like ants, dispersing, regrouping, and using the terrain to their advantage. Every fallen tree, every ridge, every river was a tool in their hands. The Krenar, confident in their brute strength, advanced in rigid formations, expecting humans to run or surrender. But humans did not run. They adapted. Private Marcus Hill, barely 20, crouched behind a rock with his pulse rifle ready. His heart pounded not from fear but from anticipation. He had trained for this, studied the enemy, and trusted his instincts. As a Krenar soldier stepped into the clearing, Hill fired, hitting the joint between armor plates. The alien stumbled, confused, before collapsing. "Keep moving." Reynolds' voice crackled over the comm. "Stay unpredictable. Don't let them anticipate us." From orbit, the Krenar watched these encounters with growing concern. Ships that had once destroyed entire cities with a single salvo were failing against squads of humans, armed with what seemed to be rudimentary rifles and explosives. "They adapt instantly," Dravik whispered. "Every tactic we try, they counter." Vorthak leaned forward, his segmented fingers tapping on the control panel. "Humans are not like other species," he said slowly. "They are unpredictable, flexible. Their minds are weapons, not just their bodies or their ships. The humans were aware of the Kreenar fleet above but did not panic. Instead, they used stealth drones and decoy ships to create illusions. From the aliens' perspective, the humans appeared to be everywhere at once, striking in one place and vanishing in another. Reynolds watched the holographic map as his soldiers executed a coordinated feint. "They'll think we are weak here," he said. "Then we hit where they are strongest. Remember, force is not always strength. Sometimes intelligence wins the battle." The first major engagement began at dawn. On the surface, humans lured a Kreenar battalion into a valley lined with mines and hidden turrets. From the cliffs, human sharpshooters targeted weak spots in the alien armor. Explosions shook the valley, and alien soldiers fell in ways their commanders could not anticipate. "This is unprecedented," one Kreenar commander reported in disbelief. "They use terrain. They use fear. They use cunning." Vorthak did not panic, but a flicker of something unfamiliar crossed his eyes. He had studied thousands of species, led countless campaigns, yet the humans challenged his understanding of combat. Meanwhile, Reynolds moved among his troops, calming fears and boosting morale. "Remember," he said firmly, "we do not fight like them. We fight like us. We survive because we think, because we adapt, and because we do not give up. Today we show the Kreenar what humans can do." On the Kreenar flagship, the council debated their next move. Some argued for an immediate strike, crushing the humans before they could learn more. Others suggested a cautious approach. Vorthak remained silent for a moment, then spoke. "Enough.
We observe, but we must also learn.
These humans, they are not like other species. Their minds are sharp, their courage unyielding. We will test them further, and only then will we strike decisively." As the sun rose over Norel Prime, human soldiers moved like shadows, disappearing into forests, reappearing at unexpected locations. They set traps, ambushes, and decoys, making the alien forces unsure of every step. Every Kreenar strike that succeeded in theory failed in practice, as humans countered with improvisation and teamwork. Reynolds paused to observe a squad returning from a skirmish. They were tired, scratched, and their uniforms were torn, but their eyes burned with determination. He felt a surge of pride. This is the beginning, he thought. The Kreenar think they understand combat, but they have no idea what they are facing. That evening, the first Kreenar ship fell completely. The humans had struck simultaneously from two directions, exploiting a flaw in the alien formation. As it drifted silently through the sky, its hull glowing red from damage, the Kreenar fleet realized something impossible. Humans had won the first true test of combat on Norel Prime. Vorthak, staring at the destroyed ship, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "Interesting," he said. "Perhaps they are not mere primitives after all. Perhaps they are a species to be feared, not mocked." In the forest below, Reynolds and his soldiers set up their night perimeter. Fires burned softly, casting flickering shadows. They shared quiet words, cleaned their weapons, and prepared for the next day. None spoke of fear. They spoke of plans, possibilities, and hope. The humans were tired but alive, and that was what mattered. Above them, the Kreenar fleet gathered, their arrogance shaken. They had underestimated humans, and they would pay attention now. For the first time in all the Kreenar Empire, a species had appeared that they could not predict. And that species was human. The morning sky over Norel Prime glowed faintly pink as the human soldiers prepared for the next day of combat. The first skirmish had been a small but significant victory, and the men and women of Earth's forces were learning fast. Captain Jonathan Reynolds moved among his squads, checking on his troops, studying the maps, and preparing new strategies. "They will respond," he said quietly to Lieutenant Silva. "They will try something bigger today. We need to be ready." Silva nodded. "We're ready, sir." The squads have adapted well. They learn quickly. Humans were strange to the Kreenar. They did not fight as other species did. While most alien races relied on rigid formations and overwhelming force, humans moved unpredictably. They dispersed, regrouped, and adapted. Where one tactic failed, they tried another. Every day, the aliens learned something new about humans, and the humans learned something new about the aliens. From orbit, Admiral Vorthak watched the battlefield with growing curiosity and concern. Reports flooded in from Kreenar scouts. "They adapt," Dravik whispered, his mandibles trembling slightly. "Every maneuver we make, they counter." Vorthak leaned forward, studying the glowing holograms. "Humans are unusual. They are not predictable. They improvise. They think differently. Prepare the fleet for observation, not attack. Let us see their mind in action. On the ground, Captain Reynolds had already designed a plan for the day. Small units would move through the forests and hills, drawing the Kreenar into ambush zones. Others would use decoys to confuse the alien sensors. Humans would not rely on raw strength. They would rely on intelligence, teamwork, and speed. Private Marcus Hill adjusted his rifle, glancing at the trees that stretched across the valley. "Feels like they're everywhere," he muttered. "I can't see them all, but I know they're moving." "That's the point," Reynolds said. "Don't underestimate the forest. It's as much a weapon as your rifle. Move, adapt, watch." The first contact came quickly. A Kreenar squad emerged from the hills, their armor glinting in the sun. They moved in precise formation, expecting the humans to panic, to scatter, to run. But the humans held their ground. From above, small drones zipped through the trees, creating shadows, misdirection, and confusion. The Kreenar advanced, only to find mines and tripwires activated by the humans. Explosions rocked the valley, and alien soldiers stumbled, unprepared for the terrain and the traps. Hill fired at a Kreenar soldier who advanced too far from the group. His shot struck the armor joint, and the alien fell. Another human soldier, Lieutenant Garcia, signaled to her team, guiding them around a ridge to attack from behind. The Kreenar commanders watched in disbelief. "They anticipate our moves," Dravik hissed. "They know exactly where to strike." Vorthak's eyes gleamed with a strange fascination. "Not anticipate," he said slowly. "They adapt. They are learning in real time. They are unpredictable." Meanwhile, the humans pressed their advantage. Small squads moved in coordinated strikes, never staying in one place for long. They used the forest and rivers to their advantage, disappearing and reappearing at unexpected points. The Kreenar were strong, but they were slow to react. "Keep moving," Reynolds ordered. "Never stop. Force them to chase us. Force them to make mistakes." In orbit, Kreenar warships began adjusting positions, trying to target human squads. Yet humans had prepared for this. Smoke generators, holographic decoys, and stealth units made targeting nearly impossible. One small human unit managed to disable a Kreenar fighter with an improvised electromagnetic pulse device, leaving the aliens shocked and confused. "They are using technology we cannot predict," Dravik exclaimed. "Their weapons are primitive, yet effective." "Humans are not about weapons alone," Vorthak said. "They combine intellect, courage, and adaptability. They fight differently, and that difference makes them dangerous." On the battlefield, the humans continued to strike strategically. Captain Reynolds personally led a small unit into a critical valley, setting traps and ambush points. The Kreenar, thinking they could overwhelm the humans with brute force, were caught off guard. Private Hill ducked behind a rock as a Kreenar soldier charged. Hill fired, hitting the joint again. Another soldier fired a grenade, collapsing part of a ridge and blocking the enemy's path. The humans moved with precision, timing their attacks perfectly. The Kreenar were forced to retreat in small groups, disorganized and frustrated. Every advance they tried was met with human ingenuity. Every attack failed to achieve the expected result. "Why do they fight like this?" a Kreenar lieutenant cried. "Every species we face falls quickly." "They are supposed to panic, to beg for mercy." Vorthak remained silent, observing the humans' movements. "Humans, they are not like other species," he said quietly. "They do not fight as we expect. Their strength lies not in numbers, not in armor, not in weapons alone, but in their minds. Their minds are sharper than we believed." As the sun climbed higher, humans continued their maneuvers. They moved in waves, sometimes retreating to lure the Kreenar into traps, sometimes attacking with coordinated strikes from multiple directions. The aliens began to tire, their formations breaking down under constant pressure. Captain Reynolds paused on a ridge to observe the battlefield. His squad had just finished a successful ambush. He watched the Kreenar regroup, their movements slower, less confident. "They are learning," he said. "We are teaching them, but we are also learning ourselves. Observe, adapt, strike. That is how we survive." Night fell over Norel Prime, but the battle did not stop. Humans set night patrols and sent stealth teams to disrupt the alien communications. Fires burned in controlled areas, creating shadows and confusion. The Kreenar struggled to respond, their confidence shaken. "They are relentless," Dravik whispered. "They do not stop. They do not retreat permanently. Every time we strike, they counter. Every time we advance, they adapt." Vorthak's multi-jointed fingers tapped the console. "This is not defeat," he said softly. This is a test. They are teaching us about themselves and teaching us about us. Humans are remarkable. Back on the ground, Reynolds addressed his squads. Today we showed them that strength alone does not win battles. Intelligence, courage, adaptability, and teamwork, these are what make us strong. Tomorrow we will do more. We will continue to surprise them. Remember, the enemy underestimates us, and that is our advantage. The Krenar fleet began to adjust strategies. They could no longer rely on brute force or overwhelming numbers. Every movement of the humans had to be carefully watched and predicted. But humans were not predictable. They adapted, changed, and learned in real time. Captain Reynolds looked at the stars. The Krenar fleet above seemed vast and powerful, but he knew that power alone was not enough. Humans had something that could not be measured in armor, weapons, or technology: ingenuity and the will to survive. The next day promised to be more dangerous. The Krenar would try harder, strike faster, and use more advanced tactics. But the humans were ready. They would continue to adapt, to learn, and to fight with everything they had. And above all, they would never give up. As night deepened over the forests and mountains of Norel Prime, human soldiers rested briefly, tending to wounds, repairing equipment, and sharing quiet words of encouragement. They were tired, but their spirits remained high. They knew the Krenar were strong, but humans had something stronger: determination, intelligence, and unity. In the command chamber of the Oblivion Spear, Vorthak finally spoke to his officers. "Prepare the elite units," he said. "These humans are not simple prey. They are clever, adaptable, and relentless. If we wish to defeat them, we must learn and strike carefully. Underestimate them no longer." Dravik clicked in agreement, a rare show of respect. "Admiral, they may be dangerous beyond expectation." Vorthak's eyes glimmered. "Yes, and that makes them fascinating. This war will not be easy, but it will teach us much. Observe closely, and you may survive." On the ground, Captain Reynolds looked at the stars again, thinking of the Krenar fleet above. "They think they understand combat," he murmured. "But they have no idea what humans can do." The battle for Norel Prime had only just begun, but the humans had already shown their edge. They had survived the first day, adapted to the alien tactics, and struck back in ways the Krenar did not expect. Tomorrow, the war would escalate, but for now the humans rested, ready to face whatever came next. They had learned one thing already: in a fight, brains could be as powerful as brawn, and courage could turn the tide of any battle. And in this first clash on a distant world, humans were proving that even the mightiest enemy could be challenged and defeated. The dawn of the third day over Norel Prime brought a tense quiet. The forests, rivers, and mountains below seemed peaceful, yet both humans and Krenar knew that another day of deadly engagement awaited. For the humans, it was not just about physical combat anymore. Today, they would begin using the mind as a weapon. Captain Jonathan Reynolds gathered his officers in a small forest clearing. "They are strong, yes," he said quietly, "but their strength is predictable. They follow orders, obey commands, and trust in formations. That's where we have the advantage. We will fight their minds as much as their bodies." Lieutenant Silva leaned in. "Psychological warfare, sir?" "Yes," Reynolds replied. "We confuse them, mislead them, make them doubt themselves. They may have bigger ships, stronger weapons and armor, but humans have something no technology can match: imagination and adaptability. Today we hit them where it hurts, in their mind." Below the forest canopy, squads moved silently. Some were equipped with stealth devices that made them nearly invisible to alien sensors. Others carried small holographic projectors, designed to create false images of human soldiers in multiple locations at once. The Krenar, already wary from the previous 2 days, would not know where to focus their attacks. From orbit, the Krenar fleet monitored the surface. Admiral Vorthak frowned at the data. "Humans again scatter in strange patterns," he said. "They appear in places where sensors detect nothing, and yet our attacks fail to reach them." Dravik clicked his mandibles nervously. "Their tactics are unnatural. They move like water, flowing and changing. No formation can contain them." Vorthak's multi-jointed fingers drummed on the console. "Observe, but do not panic. Every species has limits. We will test their limits today. Send the observation drones and ready the strike squads. But be cautious. Do not underestimate their intelligence. On the ground, the humans began their first coordinated psychological strike. Small teams feigned retreat in different directions. As the Kreenar pursued, the humans struck from unexpected angles. Drones projected false images of squads that didn't exist, making the Kreenar think humans were in multiple locations at once. Mines and tripwires hid along paths that the aliens assumed were safe. Private Marcus Hill ducked behind a tree as a Kreenar soldier charged, shouting in alien clicks and hisses. Hill fired at the armor joint and the soldier fell. Around him, shadows flickered, some real, some illusions created by the holographic projectors. Kreenar soldiers fired wildly at images that were not there. "They are everywhere," Hill whispered over his communicator. "I can't tell which is real and which is not." "Exactly," Reynolds replied calmly. "Confuse them. Keep moving. Make them doubt their own eyes." The Kreenar command was thrown into chaos. Squads reported phantom soldiers appearing suddenly, then disappearing. Mines detonated where no humans seemed to be. Kreenar leaders struggled to maintain control, their rigid command protocols breaking down under pressure. "This is unacceptable," Dravik hissed. "Our forces cannot hit targets. Their positions are constantly shifting. They are everywhere and nowhere at the same time." Vorthak's eyes narrowed. "They are testing our psychology. They do not merely fight, they manipulate. Humans are not predictable. They adapt instantly. Prepare the elite strike teams. We will respond with precision, and we will see if they can handle us directly." Reynolds knew the elite Kreenar squads, called the Varkans, would be deployed eventually. He anticipated their arrival and adjusted his strategy. Small teams split into hidden positions, laying traps and decoys specifically for the elite troops. Every path, ridge, and river was mapped into a plan of deception and ambush. As morning turned to afternoon, the first major psychological engagement began. The Kreenar elite squads moved through the forest, expecting a clear path. Humans had left subtle clues: footprints, scattered gear, and faint noises designed to lure the aliens into prepared kill zones. The Varkans advanced cautiously, only to trigger hidden mines and tripwires. Explosions rocked the forest, and fake holograms created the illusion of additional squads surrounding them. Captain Reynolds led one of the hidden units, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "Now," he whispered. Human soldiers sprang from the trees, attacking from angles the aliens had not anticipated. The Varkans fired back, but the humans were agile, moving through the underbrush using speed and unpredictability to their advantage. The aliens faltered, their confidence shaken. "They anticipate our every move." Dravik clicked in disbelief. How can a species with such primitive technology strike so precisely? Vorthak remained silent, studying the unfolding battle. He understood something his officers did not. Humans did not rely on technology alone. They relied on thought, creativity, and the ability to adapt instantly. Every failure, every mistake by the Kreenar was being used against them by the humans. In one part of the forest, Lieutenant Silva and her squad set up a series of decoy signals. Small devices emitted human heat signatures and movement patterns, drawing alien squads into traps. Mines and hidden rifles awaited them. When the Kreenar arrived, expecting an easy victory, they were met with ambushes from multiple directions. "They're ghosts," muttered one Kreenar soldier. "We cannot fight what we cannot see." Reynolds smiled quietly. "Exactly," he thought. "They can't see us, but we see them. Every step they take we anticipate, or force them to make mistakes." The psychological effect was visible. Kreenar soldiers began hesitating. Orders were delayed, hesitation spread, and confusion set in. Units that once moved with precision now staggered, unsure where to strike. Human squads continued to exploit every mistake, striking quickly and then disappearing before the aliens could respond. By mid-afternoon, the Kreenar command realized that a direct strike was futile. They had underestimated the humans' ability to manipulate the battlefield mentally, as well as physically. Vorthak decided to observe more closely, learning from their tactics while keeping the main forces in reserve. On the human side, Captain Reynolds gathered his officers for a quick briefing. "They are starting to doubt themselves," he said. "That is our advantage. Keep them moving, keep them confused, and always hit them where they do not expect. They are strong, but every species has weaknesses. We find theirs and exploit it." The day stretched into evening. Humans continued a series of feints, ambushes, and counterattacks. Small squads moved silently, using shadows, forests, and rivers to their advantage. Holograms and decoy drones made it impossible for the aliens to know where to focus their fire. From orbit, Kreenar commanders grew frustrated. "We have superior numbers and technology," Dravik hissed. "Yet we cannot gain the upper hand. Their tactics, they defy logic." Forthak remained calm. "Logic is not always the path to victory," he said quietly. "Humans do not rely solely on logic. They rely on creativity, adaptability, and courage. That is why they survive, why they strike, and why we struggle against them. Observe carefully. There is much to learn here." On the ground, Reynolds' teams pressed their advantage. Small squads ambushed alien patrols, disrupted supply lines, and created the illusion of larger forces than actually existed. Every Kreenar unit that advanced found themselves walking into confusion and danger. Private Hill crouched behind a tree, watching a squad of aliens move into a prepared trap. "I can't believe this is working," he whispered. "They have no idea what's coming." "Exactly," Reynolds said softly. "That's the point. Keep them guessing. Never let them be sure. That is how we control the battle." Night fell over Norel Prime. Fires burned along hidden lines, projecting shadows and movement that were not real. Kreenar units fired at images that were illusions. Confusion spread through their ranks, fear creeping into even the bravest soldiers' hearts. Reynolds moved among his squads, offering encouragement. "They may be bigger, stronger, and better armed," he said, "but they cannot predict you. That is your strength. Remember, we are not just fighting their bodies. We are fighting their minds. And so far, we are winning." In the Kreenar command chamber, Forthak finally spoke to his officers. "Prepare for escalation," he said. "Humans are clever, adaptable, and relentless. They are testing our limits and forcing us to adapt. We will observe further, but we will not underestimate them again." Dravik clicked slowly. "Admiral, they are unlike anything we have faced. Every tactic we try is countered. Every move we make is anticipated or exploited. We cannot defeat them with force alone." Forthak's eyes glimmered. "Force alone never wins wars. Understanding, patience, and adaptability do. And humans, they teach us that. Observe closely. Learn quickly. They are dangerous, but they are fascinating." On the forest floor, human soldiers rested briefly, tending to wounds and preparing for the next day. Their faces were tired, but their spirits were high. They had turned the battlefield into a game of minds, confusing, misleading, and exploiting the enemy. They had learned that combat was not just about strength. It was about intelligence, strategy, and creativity. Captain Reynolds looked at the stars. The Kreenar fleet above seemed powerful, but humans had proven something remarkable. Even against overwhelming odds, brains could triumph over brawn. And the war for Norel Prime was far from over. But one thing was certain: the Kreenar had learned the first real lesson about humans. They were not to be underestimated. As the night deepened, humans prepared for the next day, knowing that the sun rose slowly over Norel Prime, spilling light over forests, rivers, and jagged mountains. The air was thick with tension. Both humans and Kreenar knew that today would be a decisive day. The first 3 days had taught humans to adapt and fight cleverly. Now they would push forward, taking the fight to the enemy in ways the Kreenar could not anticipate. Captain Jonathan Reynolds walked among his troops, studying the maps and observing the terrain. "Today," he said, "we are not just defending ourselves. We are taking the fight to them. They expect us to be cautious. We will be bold. We will strike in ways they cannot predict." Lieutenant Silva nodded. "We have learned a lot in the last days, sir. The Kreenar are strong, but they hesitate now. They are uncertain." "Exactly," Reynolds replied. "And uncertainty is our ally. We will exploit it. Remember, coordination, timing, and adaptability are our greatest weapons." Below, the human squads moved through forests and valleys, using every advantage the terrain offered. Scouts climbed high ridges to observe alien movements, while small squads prepared ambushes. Rivers were crossed silently, and dense foliage became shields. Humans had learned to blend with the world around them, using it as a tool against the technologically superior Kreenar. From orbit, Admiral Vorthak studied the unfolding battlefield. Reports from the previous day had shaken even his seasoned mind. Humans had not only survived, but had confused and weakened his forces psychologically. Now the aliens were preparing for a large-scale assault, determined to crush the humans before they could fully exploit the Kreenar's hesitation. "They are bold," Dravik said, clicking nervously. They strike with precision, move like ghosts, and anticipate our attacks. We cannot crush them as easily as we thought. Vorthak's segmented eyes glimmered. Observation is key. Study their patterns. We cannot rely solely on strength. Yet we must strike decisively, or risk losing control of this battle. Captain Reynolds' plan was simple but daring. He split his forces into multiple groups, each performing specific tasks. Some squads would directly engage Kreenar patrols to lure them into prepared zones. Others would set traps along key approaches. Stealth units equipped with silenced weapons and camouflage suits would strike from unexpected angles. Drones projected false signals, making the humans appear larger and more numerous than they actually were. Private Marcus Hill moved with his squad through a narrow valley. Every rock, every tree, and every ridge had been mapped for strategic advantage. Mines lay hidden beneath leaves and soil. Sharp-eyed snipers waited on the cliffs above. Hill whispered into his communicator, "We're in position. All zones are ready." Reynolds' voice replied calmly, "Good, wait for my signal. Patience is key. Strike together and the Kreenar will not know what hit them." The first Kreenar patrol of the day advanced into the valley. They expected humans to flee, to scatter, to be predictable. But nothing could have prepared them for what awaited. Mines exploded, cutting off their advance. Holographic decoys made them think humans were everywhere. Hidden snipers fired at armor joints, taking out soldiers with deadly precision. "Impossible," one Kreenar commander hissed. "They are not where we see them. Every step we take, they punish us." Vorthak observed silently. "This is the strength of humans," he said. "They are flexible, adaptive, relentless, and they learn from every action we take. Our forces must be careful. Every move must be deliberate. One mistake, and they will exploit it." Reynolds watched as the Kreenar patrol faltered, disorganized and panicked. "Now," he ordered. All squads engaged simultaneously. Explosions, gunfire, and confusion erupted. The Kreenar soldiers were forced into retreat, unable to regain formation. Humans struck, disappeared, and struck again, using speed, intelligence, and coordination to maximize every advantage. The humans had another advantage: improvisation. No plan was fixed. Every squad adapted to the situation, reacting instantly to new threats. When a Kreenar unit tried a flanking maneuver, a hidden human squad struck from behind. When the aliens regrouped, another unit blocked their path with improvised barricades and traps. "This is not combat as we know it," Dravik whispered in frustration. "They are unpredictable, everywhere, yet nowhere." Vorthak's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "They do not fight like any other species. They adapt, coordinate, and exploit weaknesses that we cannot anticipate. We must respect their intelligence and act carefully." By midday, the humans had achieved a significant victory. Multiple Kreenar squads had been neutralized or forced to retreat. Supply lines were disrupted, and the aliens' confidence was shaken. The battlefield, once expected to be a simple contest of strength, had become a maze of traps, feints, and tactical genius. Reynolds moved among his squads, encouraging and guiding. "Excellent work," he said. "Every action counts. Keep adapting. The enemy will learn, but we will always be one step ahead. This is how humans win, not by strength alone, but by intelligence, courage, and coordination." The Kreenar fleet began to reassess their strategy. Their earlier reliance on brute force had failed repeatedly. Even their elite troops, the Varkans, had been delayed and frustrated by human ingenuity. Vorthak realized that the humans were not just opponents. They were teachers in the art of adaptability. "They learn faster than we anticipate," he said quietly. "Every tactic we try, they counter. We must escalate carefully. Precision, observation, patience. One mistake and we risk a decisive loss." As afternoon turned to evening, Reynolds prepared for a bold maneuver. He gathered his officers and outlined the plan. "We will hit the central command unit of the Kreenar patrols," he said. "It is heavily guarded, but we have prepared for it. Drones will create diversions, snipers will take key targets, and squads will move in from multiple directions. We will strike decisively and retreat before they can react fully." The operation began at dusk. Drones projected false movements across the battlefield, creating confusion among the Kreenar. Explosions erupted from prepared zones, drawing the enemy's attention away from the real assault teams. Stealth units moved silently through shadows, striking key targets with precision. Captain Reynolds led the final push. His squad moved with careful coordination, taking out guards and sabotaging communication devices. Every action was timed perfectly. Krenar soldiers found themselves surrounded, attacked from multiple angles and unable to coordinate effectively. "This is impossible," Dravik exclaimed. "We are being crushed not just by their weapons, but by their minds." Vorthak, observing calmly, understood the lesson. "Humans are more than their rifles and bombs," he said. "They are clever, adaptive, and relentless. They learn quickly, strike decisively, and retreat before we can respond. They are a species to be respected and feared." By nightfall, the humans had achieved their goal. The central Krenar command had been disrupted, several squads neutralized, and supply lines cut. The aliens were forced to retreat and regroup. The humans had not only survived but had turned the tide in their favor. Private Hill sat beside a small fire, exhausted but satisfied. "We actually did it," he whispered. "We hit them, and they couldn't stop us." Reynolds approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Yes," he said quietly. "We used what humans do best: intelligence, teamwork, and courage. Strength alone does not win battles. Today we proved that." In the Krenar command chamber, Vorthak studied the reports. Losses had been significant, but the humans had not destroyed the fleet. They had, however, shattered confidence and demonstrated that intelligence and adaptability could match even superior technology. "They are not simple prey," Vorthak said. "They are clever, persistent, and unyielding. This battle is far from over, but one thing is certain: humans are not to be underestimated." Dravik clicked softly, a rare sign of agreement. "They may be the most dangerous species we have ever encountered." On the ground, humans rested briefly, tending to the wounded and preparing for the next day. Fires burned softly, illuminating tired but determined faces. They had achieved more than survival. They had proven their ingenuity and resilience. Captain Reynolds looked up at the stars, toward the Krenar fleet. "They thought they could overwhelm us," he murmured. "They thought they understood combat. But they were wrong. We fight differently. We adapt, we learn, and we never give up. And that is why we survive, and why we will win." Tomorrow promised an even greater challenge. The Krenar would strike back with all their strength, deploying elite troops and advanced tactics. But humans were ready. They had adapted, learned, and turned the battlefield into their own advantage. In forests, valleys, and mountains across Norel Prime, the human soldiers rested, prepared, and determined. They had taken the fight to the enemy, and they had succeeded. And above all, one truth shone clearly: humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, strategists, and warriors in a class all their own. The war for Norel Prime was far from over, but the tide had begun to turn. Humans had shown their edge. Intelligence, adaptability, and courage could overcome even the mightiest enemy. The Krenar would learn this lesson fully, and the humans would be ready. The dawn over Norel Prime was pale and quiet, almost serene. The forests and mountains seemed untouched, but beneath the calm, the humans prepared for the ultimate confrontation. The Krenar had regrouped overnight. Their elite troops, the feared Varkans, were deployed to crush any human resistance. Today, the humans would face the full might of the alien empire. Captain Jonathan Reynolds stood on a ridge, overlooking the valley where the battle would unfold. His soldiers were tense but ready. Every step they had taken over the past days had led to this moment. Today, ingenuity, courage, and determination would meet brute strength. "Listen up," Reynolds addressed his officers. "The Krenar have deployed their best. The Varkans are faster, stronger, and heavily armed. But remember, we have something they do not: adaptability, coordination, and brains. They rely on power. We rely on thinking, timing, and teamwork. Stick to the plan, adjust when needed, and stay sharp. We survive and win together." Lieutenant Silva nodded. "We are ready, sir." Every squad knows their role. The traps, the decoys, the flanking maneuvers. Everything is prepared. "Good," Reynolds replied. "Then let's show them why humans are unpredictable." Below in the valley, Krenar forces moved in tight formations. The Varkans led the way, their armor glinting under the rising sun. Their confidence was palpable. To them, humans had already shown some cleverness, but now, with elite troops deployed, they expected a decisive victory. The humans, however, had already set the battlefield. Mines were buried along key paths. Holographic decoys projected human figures where none existed. Snipers occupied high ridges, and hidden squads waited in ambush positions. The forests, cliffs, and rivers were all tools in the hands of the human commanders. Private Marcus Hill checked his rifle and whispered into his communicator. All positions set. Awaiting signal. Captain Reynolds' voice came back calmly. Patience. Wait for the first move. When it comes, act swiftly and decisively. The Kreenar advanced. The Varkans struck first, charging forward with speed and precision. Their weapons fired in unison, cutting through the trees and rocks, but the humans had anticipated this. Mines exploded in their path, knocking several off balance. Decoy holograms misled the Varkans, drawing them toward prepared kill zones. Hill fired at the nearest alien, hitting the weak point in the armor. Another soldier detonated a hidden charge, toppling a cliffside above the alien ranks. Chaos erupted. The Varkans were powerful, but even they could not adapt fast enough to the humans' dynamic attacks. Impossible, one Kreenar commander shouted. They are everywhere and nowhere. Every strike we attempt is countered. Captain Reynolds watched from a ridge as his squads executed coordinated attacks. Flank from both sides, he ordered. Strike quickly and disappear. The humans moved like shadows, striking the Varkans from unexpected angles. Ambush squads fired, then vanished. Decoy images misled the aliens into traps. Explosions rocked the valley as hidden mines and charges activated simultaneously. The Varkans, for all their skill and strength, began to falter. Admiral Vorthak observed the chaos from orbit. They are not merely surviving, he said almost quietly. They are dominating. They are clever, adaptable, and relentless. Force alone cannot defeat them. Observation and adaptation are essential, but even that may not be enough. On the battlefield, Captain Reynolds led his personal squad toward a strategic ridge overlooking the Kreenar command center. Snipers and stealth squads had already disrupted communications, but Reynolds knew that a decisive strike on the command unit would tip the scales completely. Move carefully, he whispered. We must take out the leaders without alerting the rest of their forces. The squad advanced, avoiding patrols and remaining in cover. They reached the ridge and observed the alien command unit below. With a combination of sniper fire, explosives, and coordinated strikes from other squads, they struck decisively. The command center erupted in fire and smoke, leaving the remaining Kreenar soldiers disoriented and leaderless. This is it, Hill whispered, watching the chaos unfold. We've done it. But the battle was not over. The Varkans rallied, pushing forward in desperation. They were determined to crush the humans before their command structure collapsed entirely. The humans had prepared for this. Hidden squads struck from behind, snipers picked off key targets, and decoy holograms confused the Varkans, making them hesitate. Every movement of the Varkans was countered, every advance blocked. Captain Reynolds moved among his squads, coordinating attacks and guiding movements. Do not stop, he shouted. Force them to make mistakes. Use the terrain, use teamwork, and strike together. The Varkans, once feared by countless species, began to break under the humans' relentless pressure. Ambushes, traps, and unpredictable attacks caused confusion and fear. Human soldiers struck with precision, targeting armor joints, mobility systems, and weapons. The alien elite forces, though powerful, could not adapt fast enough. In orbit, Vorthak realized the truth. Humans were not only surviving, they were turning the battle completely in their favor. They are extraordinary, he said quietly. Every expectation we had of combat is challenged by this species. They think differently, act differently, and fight differently. Perhaps humans are the most dangerous species we have encountered. On the ground, Reynolds and his troops pressed the attack. Small squads flanked, snipers fired from unexpected angles, and mines detonated in perfect timing. The Varkans were forced to retreat, leaving the battlefield to the humans. Hill and his squad moved through the wreckage, taking out the last pockets of alien resistance. The forest was quiet now, filled with smoke and debris, but human soldiers remained vigilant. The Kreenar were beaten back, and the humans had survived their most dangerous encounter yet. Captain Reynolds looked over the battlefield, observing the exhaustion and determination in his soldiers. We've done more than survive, he said quietly. We've proven that even the strongest enemies cannot match ingenuity, courage, and coordination. Today, humans have shown what we are capable of. In the command chamber of the Oblivion Spear, Admiral Vorthak acknowledged the outcome. Humans are not just survivors, he said. They are thinkers, planners, and fighters in ways we cannot fully predict. They have won this engagement. But perhaps they have also earned our respect. Dravik clicked softly in agreement.
They fight differently.
They learn quickly. They adapt instantly. No other species we have faced is like this. The humans, though battered and tired, were alive. They had faced the elite forces of the Kreenar and survived. More than that, they had defeated them, proving that strength alone could not win battles against a species that combined intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Captain Reynolds addressed his troops one last time that day. Today we face the strongest soldiers of an advanced empire. They thought they could overwhelm us with power. They thought they understood combat. But we showed them something they could not anticipate. Humans fight differently. We think we adapt and we never give up. That is why we survive, and that is why we win. Cheers rose among the soldiers, tired but proud. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. Each soldier understood that the battle was part of a larger war, but this victory was more than survival. It was a statement. Humans were not to be underestimated. The Kreenar retreated, their forces depleted and morale shaken. The humans had not only defended their positions, they had turned the battle into a demonstration of their ingenuity and spirit. They had survived, adapted, and triumphed. As night fell over Norel Prime, human soldiers set up camp tending to the wounded, repairing equipment, and resting after the day's events. Fires flickered in the darkness, casting warm light over determined faces. The humans had achieved what few thought possible, defeating a technologically superior and elite enemy through intelligence, coordination, and courage. Captain Reynolds looked at the stars, at the distant Kreenar fleet retreating in orbit. They thought they understood combat, he said quietly. But they have no idea what humans are capable of. This is only the beginning. We will continue to adapt, to learn, and to fight. And no matter the odds, we will survive. We will win. On Norel Prime, the forests, mountains, and rivers were silent once more. The battle had ended, but its lessons remained. Humans had proven themselves capable of defeating the elite forces of an empire, not through sheer strength, but through intellect, adaptability, and courage. And in that moment, the galaxy began to take notice. Humans were not just another species. They were innovators, strategists, and warriors in their own right. The war for Norel Prime had ended, but the reputation of Earth's troops had only begun to spread. The Kreenar would remember this day, and so would the humans. Captain Reynolds finally allowed himself a small smile. The troops had survived. The Kreenar had been beaten. Humanity had triumphed. And that triumph would echo far beyond this single battle, proving once and for all that humans were a species not to be underestimated,